We have you registered as Taylor Laredo on behalf of Airlines Houston and on behalf of yourself, and you're testifying before the bill, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Thank you, please proceed.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Taylor. I'm a native Texan my whole life, and I come here not only representing Air Alliance, who I intern for, but also myself and many of the young people who live in this state. I love this state, and only that I'm only 21, and I want to enjoy a long and healthy life in this state, as so do many of the other youth, without the threat of excessive pollutants and with the peace of mind that we have a government agency like TCEQ that listens to us and works for us. I come here today to urge the committee to vote for HB 1505, but also to strengthen the regulatory power of the TCEQ through the following provisions that many of my colleagues have highlighted, such as directing the TCEQ to consider the cumulative impacts on approving multiple air permits in the same neighborhood, on clarifying that permit application meetings will not replace in-person meetings, but supplement them, to encourage building community, to remove economic development from the agency's statement, which has led to protect industry interests over public health time and time again. It's exhausting for me to watch those in power allow corporations to reap massive benefits from pollution while simultaneously destroying the environment and degrading people who contribute to the economy, who become sick due to compounding effects of pollution. Lastly, require the agency to consider environmental justice in its functions and put those at the forefront because it's necessary to alleviate the inequitable distribution of harmed natural environment on low-income communities and marginalized communities. The committee today cannot ignore all the stories that have been heard that highlight how TCEQ and industry polluters have failed Texans time and time again. But I've never filed a complaint with TCEQ, but in the future, if, or more likely so when, I need to file one, I want the peace of mind to know that my voice will be heard by the commission and that my concerns will be addressed and not silenced. I want TCEQ to operate with equity and justice in the review and denial of permits, because we shouldn't have a reluctant regulator in Texas. We need to have a robust regulator in Texas. And most importantly, I want TCEQ to be an organization that prioritizes people in industry, because you can't place an economic value on human life.
Thank you for being here. We show you registered as Genesis Granados on behalf of Airlines Houston, and that you are for the bill, is that correct?
Yes, and then also self, I forgot. So.
We'll make that note that you are testifying on behalf of Airlines Houston and yourself.
Thank you so much.
For the bill, please proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon. My name is Genesis Granados, and I'm the Environmental Justice Programs Manager with Airlines Houston and a Houston resident for the past 10 years. I am here to speak on HB 1505 because, to be quite frank, the TCEQ does not work for the people and needs further recommendations that will center environmental justice. TCEQ has historically chosen industry over public health. Just yesterday, we had an explosion and fire at a chemical plant in Pasadena where at least one person was sent to the hospital. Almost 7,000 residents live within 2 miles of that plant, well within the impact zone. And during the incident, there were conflicting reports, and the community was left trying to decide what to do. These types of catastrophes have happened time and time again, and the TCEQ has done nothing. How many more injuries and deaths related to environmental harms will it take for the TCEQ to see that they are prioritizing economic interests over people's lives? While we appreciate the changes that have been recommended after the Sunset Review study in 2022, there needs to be more significant reform for community members to see that the TCEQ is actively working to change their reputation as reluctant regulators. Real reform of the agency would include the following, and I just want to uplift what everybody, or at least folks, have said, my colleagues. Eliminating economic interest from the TCEQ's mission, allowing commissioners to deny a permit based on considerations of equity and justice, considering cumulative impacts in permitting, which is SB 179 by Senator Miles, establishing an Office of Environmental Justice, HB 642 by Representative Reynolds, eliminating the affirmative defense to air pollution, reforming the compliance history rating to account for the size and public health threat presented by large facilities. In addition, there are people back in Houston who wish they could be here but are unable to, so I have added their names to be in account in this testimony. James Schreiber, Bob Romero, Julia Orduna, Cassie Casados, Francis Blake. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Members, any questions? And before you go, Let's see if there are questions from members. Questions?
No, sir.
Okay. In the registration form, the occupation is left blank. You can communicate that to us now, or if you want to visit with the clerk, you can, but we just need to have that record
Yeah.
completed.
So I'm the Environmental Justice Programs Manager
Environmental Justice Programs Manager for Airlines.
for Airlines.
And just want to clarify that your position is for the bill.
For the bill.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
As Hugh Crystal Yo,
Yes.
and you are testifying on behalf of the Air Alliance Houston and on behalf of yourself, and that you are for the measure. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Please proceed with your testimony.
Right, and thank you for this opportunity. Good afternoon. My name is Crystal Moe, raised in Alief, Houston, Texas. Currently an Environmental Justice Outreach Coordinator at Air Alliance Houston in support of the bill. And I want to start with how there could be significant reform on TCEQ. Economic interests need to be removed from the TCEQ's mission statement to remind the agency that they are supposed to be the advocates for the people of Texas. And right now, environmental justice is on the forefront of our minds because there's a pattern of facilities that are built near low-income Black, Indigenous, people of color, marginalized communities. And communities are at constant risk of breathing in air pollutants such as volatile organic compounds, methane, benzene, other carcinogens. And then imagine seeing a plume of black smoke filling the sky. And that literally just happened yesterday in Pasadena, Texas. So this shouldn't be a regular sighting for these communities of color, and they shouldn't be in fear of enjoying the outdoors. And I want to amplify what has already been said. The bill could go further to have TCEQ establish an Office of Environmental Justice to protect marginalized communities impacted by facilities at the forefront of their mission. And there was mention of access to resources, which should include translation in multiple languages that represent the community. And to allow commissioners to deny a permit based on considerations of equity and justice, and we do not support virtual-only public meetings. The modifications are a step forward, but there's still time to protect the people's health and natural resources, and there should be a prioritizing of people over profit. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, are there any questions? All right, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Shoppers, please step forward, state your full name, who you represent, and your position on the bill, please.
Good afternoon, Chair Canales and members of the House Transportation Committee. My name is Harrison Humphreys. I am the Climate Programs Manager for Air Alliance Houston, and I am speaking in favor of HJR 77 today.
And you also represent yourself, is that correct? All right,
Correct.
please proceed.
It is essential we provide TxDOT with more flexibility in how it can fund and plan transportation infrastructure projects in order to adequately respond to the many challenges facing our transportation system today and in the decades to come. As others have correctly pointed out, the current restrictions on the State Highway Fund preclude TxDOT from even considering alternatives to highway expansion. Providing TxDOT with this flexibility is important for a number of reasons, but the closest to my heart is the issue of climate change. I cannot overstate the direness of the situation. The latest UN climate change report shows that collectively, we are nowhere near reducing our greenhouse gas emissions to a point that will keep this planet livable. As TxDOT's own data shows, Texans are responsible for far more greenhouse gas emissions per capita than most everyone else in the world, largely due to the amount we're forced to drive. We must provide more sustainable transportation modes in order to reduce these emissions. I know that many of you may not be as moved by this reason. Most of us won't be here when the worst of the worst of climate change occurs, but our children and our grandchildren will. If any of them were born in the past 5 years, in the past 10 years, the world they will live in when they reach y'all's age will be unrecognizable. By 2050, Texans will be facing nearly 100 days of 100-degree heat every year. We will continue to be ripped apart by drought, massive hurricanes, flooding, and will face issues like food insecurity and water shortages. You have the chance to be a hero for your children and grandchildren and all Texans today by doing what you can, when you can, to prevent this crisis from getting worse. TxDOT has a primary role to play in staving off climate change and a responsibility to Texans everywhere to provide innovative transportation solutions. HJR 77 simply gives TxDOT the flexibility to do what they need to meet all Texans' needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Thank you.
Chair calls Leticia Gutierrez. Good evening. Thank you for being here. We show you registered as Leticia Gutierrez on behalf of Air Alliance Houston and on behalf of yourself, and that you're testifying for the bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Please proceed with your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, and bear with me because I am a little tired. Actually, we just had a concrete batch plant hearing the other night, which lasted quite a long time. My name is Leticia Gutierrez, and I'm with Air Alliance Houston. I'm also a mother with a son who has suffered with asthma for most of his life. I'm here in favor of Representative Manchia's House Bill 4785, denying certain applications based on environmental justice impacts. I'm not going to go over all of the health stats that have already been read because I have those same for my area, and just about how industrial facilities wreaking havoc and the negative health effects it brings, and how in areas of concern, the life expectancy in my area is shortened by 16 years less than the average on the west side where more white affluent areas are. But as it seems that Black and brown minority communities aren't seen as humans by those who are in favor to continue business as usual and not worthy of clean air, then maybe you should just also do some research around the impacts of property values and land values and how said facilities are allowed to consistently pop up near already burdened communities. This violence on our health and on our lands will need serious geological repair that generations to come will be left with to clean up due to your inability to see us as worthy humans. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, are there any questions?